The concept of world music with air quotations really began about 37, 38 years ago. The story is about the top room of a pub somewhere in England with many people from around the world trying to figure out back then. I think the story was where to put all these different musics in Tower Records, back when that's how people got music.
I worked at Tower Records,
Yeah, and
so around that time actually. So I saw what was happening with this, firsthand, and people, also at the same time with the boom of compact discs, there was this conflation of things being exploding and being available, and world music was part of that.
well, they wanted to have a place like they had the
Yeah.
jazz and the classical and the pop, and they didn't know where to put all this other stuff. And the story I heard is they went. I think the French really wanted it to be called musique mondiale, and then some people wanted to call it world beat, and I don't know how, but world music became the moniker. And for you all, I'm pointing to the computer, but for the World Music Institute, they use this title to, as an umbrella, present all the different musics in the world. For the Klezmatics, we found that we were so fortunate that somehow the right synergy, we were chosen to represent East European Yiddish music and culture as like the world music group, Yiddish group. And the Klezmatics, our first major gig, our first record in 1988 was in Europe at a world music festival, Heimatklinge. And it was interesting. And you're going to ignore that. Lauren's going to talk.
Yeah, and I think to add to what Frank was saying, I think it's interesting that for the first time, at least in having grown up in a Jewish community in Los Angeles, for the first time, this kind of music that we were making was included in sort of this global idea of world music. I always felt that we were kind of outside of it, that no one really saw it as something that was part of this larger world. So that was pretty great.
World music, the label, gave us a home. And that's why we've been working with the World Music Institute for over 30 years. Doing that allowed us, the Klezmatics were just sort of finding our identity. And it took a while, and now 15 or 20 albums later, we sort of know what we're doing. But we were trying to find who we were. We were still learning the traditional music, trying to play it more authentically, whatever that means, trying to learn it more, and at the same time trying to put ourselves into it. And that's been our process for over 30 years. But I think, interestingly, one of the first things that we did is we decided that we wanted the music and the texts that Lorin sings, the songs, to be relevant. We wanted them, something happened, Yiddish, the language of East European Jews, just suffered the worst tragedies one after the next. The Holocaust wiped out most of the Yiddish-speaking Jews. The formation of the State of Israel made Hebrew the more official Jewish language, Yiddish, and then in America, Jews, immigrants wanted to be more American. All this kind of caused Yiddish to become out of favor. But my point is actually more that most of the Yiddish music that I grew up with, we'll find out more about Lorin later, it was nostalgic. It was all about, oh, there was this land called Romania and the Jews were so great there, and the men always danced with someone else's wives and they loved to eat sausages, or, oh, it was the town of, it was all nostalgia. And the first thing we did, really, even as we were finding out how to play the music, we decided we're only going to sing songs that we care about. And thank God the tradition has so many different great texts. And we dove into spiritual texts and songs about food and drink, and especially songs about making the world a better place. And we did a little trick that I want Lorin to talk about. Not only did we pick the songs that we cared about, but we would alter, we, meaning the Klezmatics and our colleagues, would alter texts to really fit who we were. So for example,
Yeah. Well, using lyrics from Song of Songs, in something, is it I would want to sing things that, as a queer person, that I could relate to, rather than the kind of historical ideas that you were doing things, theatrical songs or songs that that are love songs, that you're singing about this hypothetical person, and I want it to be real for me. So for me, it followed that we should alter these, or you pick texts that I could sing that would be true. And it was very important in our development as a band, and also in my development as a human being.
there's a song we've been doing for basically all 36 years called Olive Breeder. And this was maybe one of the first experiments with tweaking the text. The song was already good. We're all brothers together, and we all work together to make the world a better place, and we sing beautiful songs. It's a good socialist Yiddish anthem. But what did we do to make the words even more particular?
Well, being part of this Yiddish sort of burgeoning Yiddish revival, reinterest by a younger generation in Yiddish language and culture, we found that there had already been a verse that had been written, because the song is "Und wir seien alle Brüder," we're all brothers, and so someone had written a verse that was "We're all sisters," and we found out that the song was actually had a history of being adapted by different people, and that people wrote their own lyrics and made up their own verses. So we had a friend who was a colleague, Jeff Chandler, who I was working with at the YIVO Institute for Jewish Research, came up with a verse, we're all gay like Jonathan and King David, which was both sort of an inside joke, and also just very playful. But it also was a fun way to address that, and became kind of indelible, with the song. And can I talk a little bit about sort of rediscovery of songs?
Well, why don't we play
All right,
this, and then
let's play
I'll remind you,
Okay, yeah.
and then we'll jump into rediscovery of
Okay,
songs.
okay.
Let's play a little bit of Olive Breeder. You can sing at home.
Und wir seien alle Brüder, oi, oi, alle Brüder, und wir singen schöne Lieder, oi, oi, oi. Und wir haben sich in einem, oi, oi, sich in einem, also ist es nicht, aber keinem, oi, oi. Oi, 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 oi. Oi, 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 oi. Oi, 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 oi.
Olive breeder. So you wanted to say something about rediscovering song lyrics?
About the idea, one of the things that came to us early on was before we were comfortable enough to start writing our own songs within the tradition, what we realized was that there were so many great songs that were already existed that weren't being sung. This was one of those that I learned in the Evo Intensive Yiddish Zuma program, and sitting on the lawn at Columbia University. The teacher we had this song class with Adrienne Cooper, who was a huge influence on all of us and a mentor. And she taught this song, and among a lot of other songs, which I was fairly familiar with, and I thought, why isn't this song better known? Why aren't people? Why doesn't
it is now? Every klezmer band plays it now.
But in 1987, no one was. You didn't hear everybody singing this song, and I didn't understand why. So I thought that we should play it, and on our first album, it's kind of, as songs go, it's kind of like for me, kind of the centerpiece and the most important song on that record, because the song kind of says so much, and also has so many great things about it. Here we are with this gem of a song, and we were able to do with it what you hear songs from different kinds of music that are like classics that everyone knows. So this became that, and we were able to do that with other songs, and it also, I think, encouraged other people to do the same thing. So I think that learning the song was very, very important, and putting it out in the world was important in that kind of larger sense.
So it's interesting to me that just as you, Lorin, found a way to use the music, the songs, the text, to express yourself, your sexuality, both of us, our politics, our things. My path was different. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I found that using the tradition, but with the Klezmatics especially, I was very influenced by the great Lester Bowie and the AACM musicians, and their mantra was ancient to the future. And I always felt like that's where the Klezmatics fit in. In Yiddish, they call it the golden akate, the golden chain or the golden link, and that we're all links in the chain. And what we do with the Klezmatics, we find ways to integrate our own, everything about ourselves in it. So in addition to the text, I come from a very different musical background. My background is much more, well, we'll talk about again with that. In any case, I was also personally on a spiritual journey. I think if I hadn't found klezmer in Yiddish, I probably would have ended up being a practicing Tibetan Buddhist, or maybe a Santeria disciple. But I found that the Hasidic philosophy and the Hasidic music, Hasids are a certain type of Jews who are in the mystical aspect of Judaism, and their music reflects that. And they have one of their types of music is called a nigun. The plural is nigunim. And Lorin and I have done a lot of work in and out of the Klezmatics on these Hasidic nigunim, and we love them because energetic moods, but they have to express both a universal spirituality as well as a particular Jewish spirituality. And that mixture of universality and particularity is wonderful. And also, well, they have a lot of tradition. In any case, we'd like to play for you one of these nigunim This comes from the Ger Hasidim. And again, you can sing along at home.
Yeah.
Mhm. Um, so Lauren, how did you get involved in this music? How did you realize that even though klezmer is pretty well known in the States and interestingly, 4 years ago it was not so well known at all.
Yeah, that's true. So I grew up in a conservative Jewish community in a suburb of Los Angeles. My mom was also born in LA, and she was part of the Jewish community in Boyle Heights and City Terrace, which was around near downtown LA, not far from where I actually ended up growing up. And when we moved to the suburb, and when her and my father divorced when I was about 6, and when she was looking for community, she became a member of a local synagogue. At the time, that part of LA had enough Jewish people in that part of the city to support very, very, popular synagogues. So I grew up. I went to Hebrew school. I went to LA Hebrew High School. I went to Camp Ramah. I was involved in USY, which is the youth group of the conservative movement. And I heard in my shul, I heard a lot of people, older people, singing in a way that I would later come to understand was sort of where I eventually ended up. But I didn't understand that at the time. I also didn't understand that a lot of the songs that we were singing in USY and at Camp Ramah were actually Lubavitch Nigunim. But I didn't understand, no one ever told us where they came from or how to sing them with any sort of inflection or style, and I didn't really understand that. So when I was about 16, my sister had her bas mitzvah, and our shul was becoming more modern, and they said that we could play music in shul on Shabbos. So I, together with several friends from Hebrew school, actually, we started a band. And one of the people in the band had heard what we would now call klezmer music on the radio, and went out and found these Cayman fake books, which are very well-known early 20th century compilations of Yiddish dance tunes. And so we played them as part of our repertoire. And the first time we played was at my sister's bas mitzvah, which was the first time that there was music on Shabbos. And my sister was the first girl to read from the Torah. We were like sort of a groundbreaking family, I guess. And so that's sort of how my first exposure to this music was through that, and then I was sort of dabbling in a lot of different kinds of music. I went to two universities. I went to USC and UCLA, and trying to figure out where I fit in as a singer, and nobody really knew what to do with me. They had at UCLA. They really were puzzled by the way that I sing. I had people say, "Is he a countertenor? Maybe he should sing baritone for a year." All these really crazy things. But what happened was I also got involved with the gay synagogue in LA. I was the co-cantor there with a friend. Someone who became a friend, Elliot Pilch. And eventually, together, the two of us went on a 4-month tour of the United States with a cassette that we had made called "Bending the Rules," and we were doing some Hebrew language.
They even put out a 45 RPM.
That was
single.
Yeah, I co-wrote the theme song for the Gay Pride Parade in Los Angeles in 1982, I think. So. So we toured all over the country, and one of the influences that also came to be important with the Klezmatics was that we were very in tune with what was called women's music. So this predominantly lesbian singer-songwriters who were writing this very heartfelt and uplifting music but also some of it very politically charged and very among which were Chris Williamson and Holly Near, who the Klezmatics later came to work with. I went to all these different places, and every time I went to one of these places, I thought, this is where I'm gonna live. This is where I'm gonna be making music. And then we came to New York, and that really blew everything else out of the water, because you could driving over the Williamsburg Bridge into Manhattan, and turning on the radio and hearing Jewish radio, and that was like one of those moments where I really felt like this is where I belonged. On Halloween of 1983, I moved to New York. And so, and I was dabbling in classical music. I was doing Balkan music. I was doing this and that. And I was in this band, Zlatny Uste. And Frank came to a rehearsal, and he saw me playing the accordion, heard me playing the accordion, and later I ran into him at this restaurant, and he said, "Would you be interested in being in a klezmer band?" Well, I'd already, pretty much been in a klezmer band, and I thought, well, okay, I could do that here too, some extra money playing. That's sort of how the short version of how where the Klezmatics started in 1986.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And and so in doing that, it became very quickly apparent that I needed to sort of try and focus on one thing, and that thing was going to be Yiddish music. And so I had part of that was studying Yiddish, which I did. I ended up working at the U Institute for Jewish uh, Yiddish and of the education camp, which I ran for 14 years as an administrator. Um, and it's where I met Adrian Cooper, who, a huge influence and a much beloved figure in the klezmer revival, and her, you can't overstate her importance to all of us. But also it's where I found a lot of recordings and source material for for what became our work in the Klezmatics. Yeah, yeah. So, but you didn't grow up like that, and you actually grew up in New York.
No, I did not grow up like this at all. The music in my synagogue, I'm a real suburban American Jew. No cultural Jewishness, no Yiddish language, maybe a little bit of food stuff. We'll talk more about food later. Musically, no, I mean, the music in my synagogue was horrible. It was just like a bad Germanic electronic organ and an amateur choir. And if anyone had ever told me to actually make a living doing Jewish music, I would have laughed. My interest went from rock and soul and funk when I was growing up, and then the whole world of African American music, which is what I studied in conservatory, jazz, improvisation, and all sorts of, again, what is now called world music. For me, they weren't called world music at the beginning. It was just playing different traditions in different communities. So I was living in Boston, and we would play merengue in the Dominican communities. And I was in a salsa band. I was in a Haitian band. We'd play Haitian dances. And I was the arranger for Volo Volo. We went to Haiti and, doing everything. And we would play Italian feasts and Brazilian carnivals. And all these musics were about relating to people and celebrating each of their cultures. And I didn't really realize that there was a Jewish version of that would interest me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I knew we had parties for weddings and bar mitzvahs, but the music was either terrible or it was just American music, nothing, or Israeli music, which I didn't care about at all. But I got lucky that at the New England Conservatory was a teacher named Hankus Netsky, whose family had been a klezmer family, who was interested in discovering that music. He wanted to put together a band. He did. It was one of the first bands of the klezmer revival, and called the Klezmer Conservatory Band. And I started learning. I said, oh, this is a very cool music. And it fit in with the salsa and the African music and the Balkan music. It was just another wonderful music to play. But then when we formed the Klezmatics, you see, with the Klezmer Conservatory Band, they were more about copying old records. With the Klezmatics, we were about copying old records, but also, as we said, putting ourselves into it. And that's where I spent the last 30, 40 years, is integrating all the parts of myself. So if you give me like a C minor, for example, there's a kind of a out-of-tempo kind of music called a doina, and it might normally go. Well, in that Little Hanukkah music for y'all. Yeah, I could just find ways over and over, constantly discovering ways of integrating different musics together. And even as the years went on, I've always loved theater and contemporary theater. And again, it was the same problem. Yiddish theater was always nostalgic, and I didn't care about it. I didn't need to see people talking about the old country and all that. I actually, people don't believe me, but I've seen Fiddler on the Roof until about 3 years ago. It was the first time I even saw Fiddler on the Roof. I don't care about that. But using the same attitude with the Klezmatics and with other things, I've composed like a Cuban Yiddish about the great Taib Hatwe. I've composed ballet and dance scores and film scores, and just, it's so alive. It's so alive. But I'd like to move forward in the time we have left to talk about one of the most personally satisfying aspects about our journey, which is that, again, this is maybe a difference between Lorin and I growing up. For me, growing up, we were Jews, we're both Jews, but there was nothing musical that was interesting about that. For you discovered what was interesting. But now that I learned all these traditions, we found that there's amazing music for all the holidays, for all the rituals, and I know that in my own family and with my friends, all of our Jewish life is infused with an amazing amount of music. And this is what the music we've come back to having a style and a genre. So in the time we have left, maybe we can touch on 2 or 3 things and give you a little Hanukkah. But the most important holiday in the Jewish calendar is the Shabbat, or the Shabbat, we call it. And it's every week, and there's tons of music. And to welcome in the angels and spirits that come to visit us mystically every Shabbos, there's a prayer called Shalom Aleichem. Let there be peace with the earth, and let the angel of peace come to us. And Lorin found this beautiful Shalom Aleichem.
So for Pesach, here's another recent discovery. This is a one that's a version of Echad Mi Yodea, except it's in Yiddish. Eins, eins, eins. Who knows one?
It's accounting songs. It's how you keep the kids entertained and teach them history and
Eins, 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 wer weiß, was das ist. Ich weiß, ich weiß, ich weiß, was eins ist. Hey, was das ist. Ich weiß, ich weiß, ich weiß, was es ist. Wir sind da bei uns vermoschen. Parece que schmeiß wie aber mit wat wari. Für moi seinen bei uns da. Sore Rifke, Rochel, Welle, drei, wir seinen bei uns da. Aber jetzt kommt ja ein Konzert, Livro, zwei Luft, weiß von Sache stehen, geschrieben hat das, der Rede steht alleine, ist und auf der Erde und Himmel, ein bisschen
And interestingly enough, Hanukkah, the most popular holiday, the one we're celebrating now, has a couple of songs, but not that many. And in fact, so if we had enough time, we would talk all about the Woody Guthrie project that Bryce mentioned before. But to make it really short, we got gifted and tasked and blessed with the ability to write new songs to the words that Woody Guthrie wrote. And Woody Guthrie was married to a Jewish woman, and he wrote a set of 8 Hanukkah songs. And we'd like to share one. This is in English now. It's Woody's writing, and this is our music. And which one are we going to do? Hanukkah? Okay, yeah. So this is my music to Hanukkah, Hanukkah.
All over town, it's Hanukkah, Hanukkah time. It's Hanukkah, Hanukkah, shaking my hand. Candles are burning all over this land to light the dark road to the man passing by. It's Hanukkah, Hanukkah time. It's Hanukkah, Hanukkah, kissing my cheek. The light in my window, it burns for a week. I'll open my present to take a little peek. It's Hanukkah, Hanukkah time. It's Hanukkah, Hanukkah, makes me feel glad. This spot's for mother and this spot's for dad, for sister and brother, nice for all time. It's Hanukkah, Hanukkah time. It's Hanukkah, Hanukkah, hugging me tight. Hanukkah day, it's Hanukkah night. You got no money, well that's alright. It's Hanukkah, Hanukkah time.
B flat, 1, 2. That's two of our Hanukkah songs. And let's see if anyone's got some questions.
Yeah, it was just about you. You took one already away here because one question, yeah, one question had been how that, Happy Joyous Hanukkah album came about. So you answered a little bit saying you got the lyrics gifted, and then you wrote the music to
Yeah,
them.
yeah, it's a little more complicated than that, though. Um, I know for me that when I was a kid, my mom used to listen to radio and enter contests all the time, and she won a contest on the sister station of WBAI in New York, which is KPFK in LA, and they said, if you we will give you any folk album that you want. And she said, I would like Guthrie songs to grow on because we were young kids. So I had this record growing up, listening to all these "Take Me Riding in My Car," and these songs of Woody Guthrie for kids. But to come around, we met Nora Guthrie, Woody's daughter, at a concert in Tanglewood, playing klezmer music with him, and we'd actually performed one of Woody's mother-in-law's songs, which is the song Fisher Lead. And out in the crowd, I saw this face after the concert, and it was Nora Guthrie. And I recognized her from this record that her family had done of Woody's songs. And so I walked to the foot of the stage. I said, "You're Nora Guthrie," and she said, "Why, yes, I am." And I said, "Would you like to meet Itzhak Perlman?" So she came up on the stage, and I said, "Elise, that's grand." Very quickly with that, because no one had ever introduced her
She was always
she
either
was always
Woody's daughter.
or Arlo's sister.
Exactly.
So then she said, I didn't go through my father's papers, and he has an awful lot of lyrics, specifically ones, Jewish songs. He has some Hanukkah songs, and also some other things about the Jewish life and the life with his family in Brooklyn. I'd like to send them to you, and maybe you would send them to music. So that's how the whole journey sort of began.
Wonderful,
And
great.
and so we've had this wonderful ongoing relationship with the Guthrie family.
I see, Gabby, I see another question here. We're looking at the window.
Yeah, I was gonna
What
get
are
to that
some of
next.
your
I
favorite
can,
Hanukkah traditions?
yeah. So what are some of your favorite Hanukkah traditions, your personal ones?
Well, it's a great question. It's a great question because besides music and other things, one of the things Lauren and I have very much in common, and indeed also with our friend Adrian Cooper, who Lauren has mentioned a number of times, we love eating and we love cooking. We love both. We love cooking and we love eating. The love of eating has kept us together for nearly 40 years of touring because we're always looking for new restaurants. And the love of cooking has allowed us to share so many meals. And one of the best things, and I don't know if I ever told you this, of the Jewish holidays is that basically, except for Yom Kippur, where we fast, every Jewish holiday has foods associated with it. And so, my favorite traditions for all the holidays are the food traditions. With Lauren and we did a show called Essen, which means eating or food or whatever. Essen, Songs from the Kitchen, where we sang Yiddish songs about food and told stories of our family. My favorite one is how we introduced it, which is that Adrian comes from a family of chicken farmers.
Yeah,
You come
I have egg farmers.
Oh, you have the
Yeah,
egg.
yeah,
Lauren has the egg farmers.
yeah.
Adrian had something, and my grandfather owned a delicatessen in Brooklyn Heights. So we've all of our families are involved with food, and the the best the best is and I think Lauren sent to you. We made a video for the folks being a theater during the pandemic or something about songs for Hanukkah
And food.
and food. And we
Yeah.
cooked, and Lauren sent you a recipe that he found
Yeah.
from
Yves
Eve
Jochenowitz.
Jochenowitz, who's an expert in Yiddish vegetarian cooking, for pumpkin donuts. Donuts are associated with Hanukkah basically because you fry them in grease, and grease is oil, and oil is about the menorah lamp that burned for 7 days. My favorite recipe was the one that will give you instant heart attack and cholesterol blockage, but it's to take what's called gribbinus, which is the basically the Jewish version of chicharrones. It's chicken skin fried in rendered schmaltz, chicken fat, and you take the gribbinus and we put it inside. What do we put
Oh,
it?
in a kreplach.
In a kreplach, which is like a
Yeah.
potato ball.
Yeah.
This is like something you would get in your bodega, except it's all chicken, it's not pork. You put the gribbinus in the potato, and you fill it and you deep fry it. So we love all the food traditions.
All right. We have another
Okay.
question where it says, what are some new trends or bands in klezmer music that excite you? Did you hear that?
I would say one.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
got
yeah.
it.
Well, a couple of things are happening. People are now conversant enough with Yiddish, and with the tradition, and also with, with American singer-songwriter traditions, and also chanson in France, and these Russian traditions, to be writing their own songs in Yiddish, in different types, political songs, love songs. People like Dan Kahn and like Sveta Kundish, and Sasha Luria and Ilya Schneeves, people who are taking this tradition into new places, and that's very exciting to me. And also rediscovery of old transcripts and recordings that were made by pioneers in folklore, particularly with Yiddish song and with klezmer music. And there's been a lot of exciting sort of archaeology work, rediscovery of these old things, and the only way they're going to live is if people play them. So hearing this music played now that's very exciting, because it also inspires us. So.
Yeah, to take what Lauren said about the Yiddish language and extend it to the music itself, there are enough people now who speak the musical language of klezmer, the Yiddish musical language, that they can play it in a wide array of styles. And in terms of this musical archaeology, I'm just going to list a bunch of the archives that have now become known, digitized, and available to people. There's, in no particular order, the Ruth Rubin archive, which Lauren worked on at the YIVO. There's the Stonehill archive. There's the Mlatek songbook archives, which are being digitized for the Workers' Circle. There is the Klezmer Institute is doing the
It's the Beregovsky.
The Beregovsky. Each of these names is a folklorist who collected music, who collected songs, who recorded people, and it's all been stuck in archives and lost, and now it's all being digitized. So there is both a pool of creative musicians who know the language and know the music, and there's all this material out there to explore. So it's really, I would say, klezmer music, Yiddish culture, even though the numbers of actual Yiddish speakers are down so much, especially secular Yiddish speakers. The culture is alive in a way it hasn't been for almost 100 years,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
more.
I
that's great.
also wanted to mention, I also wanted to mention one more collection, which is the Yiddish Folk Song Project from the 1970s that was headed by Barbara Kirshenblatt Gimblett. And those tapes were recently digitized and are available at cjh.org. You can find them there. And these are all tremendous resources for people. Even if you're a layperson, you want to hear a little bit of what this music is about.
Right. Thank you. And there's another question that asks if there are annual klezmer festivals. Kevin would like to know if there are annual
And
klezmer festivals.
thank you for asking, Kevin, and your timing is perfectly propitious, if that's a real word. Our New York-based YNY Yiddish New York Festival will start in just 1 week from now. It's a hybrid festival. The lecture components are all online, but the instrumental, dance, and concerts are all live at the Museum of Jewish Heritage. And that's going to be between December 24th and 28th. All sorts of classes. Go to YiddishNewYork.org, maybe .org. Yiddish New York, one word. And then very quickly, IMJ, there is Yiddish Summer Weimar. There is
Klezfest London.
Klezfest London, Klez North.
Yeah.
There's the Rendezvous Klezmer in Tapis Vert in France. I'm sure I'm leaving some out. So there are many festivals of learning and celebrating and playing and dancing.
Great, thank you. And then we have time for one last question, which is from Keith. And that is, have you experienced any fusion with the music of Ethiopian or Sephardic Jews or others from the Jewish diaspora?
Well, Keith, the word experienced is a very big open door. I and Lorin both have because we're voracious listeners and students of all kinds of music. And some of my best friends are people who are like working dedicatedly in Ethiopian Jewish music and in Sephardic Jewish music. I mean, I've known Sarah Aroeste kind of since she was a young artist, and she works with my colleague Shai Bachar, and they're doing very fascinating things. On the Ethiopian front, Shanir Blumenkrantz is working with the Yemen. Well, that's not Ethiopian. Yemen. No, that's
Yemenite.
That's Yemenite Jewish music. And there's so many. Gosh, there's so much going on now. It's really. I guess I'm not very familiar with anyone doing contemporary Ethiopian. I know a lot of people working in Ethiopian music, not Ethiopian Jewish music. But yeah, it's a beautiful landscape right now. And just to point people to you all, people should always look at the World Music Institute's website because you're always aware of what's going on and you're presenting different artists from all over. You've presented the best of musics from all these cultures and traditions over the years. So, we look to you, so thank you.
Oh, thank you both so much for spending, a part of Hanukkah with us and bringing that spirit into everybody's home. I know you're touring and this is not the perfect setting for you since you're in a hotel room right now. Thank you everybody who attended and joined us for this hour. And yes, please stay in touch. Join us again for another WMI Plus at Home session or live. And we also look forward, of course, to presenting the Klezmatics live again, since we have such a long tradition. And we wish, a happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, and a great rest of the evening. And thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, Bryce. Thank you very much.